This week we're covering a tragic, fatal fire in the Bronx that claimed the lives of 3 children and a 22-year-old. One of the children was a 10-month-old girl who was the daughter of the 22-year-old man who perished. And the other 2 boys, 10 and 12 years old, were his brothers. This was not a case that involved any kind of criminality. This was just a tragic event. When I first arrived at the scene, I did what I always do, which is I look at the front of the house and then I try to see which cameras around it would have caught the developing situation, what happened. And directly across the street, with nothing in between it, was another house with a doorbell camera facing the house that burnt down. So I went up and I spoke to the resident who had put up the doorbell camera, and he showed me the footage, and it was horrible. And you could clearly hear the kids screaming and banging, and they were trapped. The gentleman who had the Ring doorbell camera on the front of his house, he saw a woman climb out onto the roof. And these houses are so close together, the gaps are literally a few inches, that she stepped across onto her neighbor's porch roof and started banging on the windows. So the mother who picked up the child and climbed out the window, she was in the hospital. That video, the doorbell video, which the New York Post did not publish. When the editors saw how gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching that audio was, they chose not to attach it to the story. They chose not to use it in the coverage of the story. And I'm really glad they didn't, because several other people did decide to use it. It was up on Facebook. It was in several places. So she saw it while she was in the hospital. It really had an effect on her. She herself got on the phone and called the guy managing the Facebook page that posted the video and asked different copies of this that were circulating be taken down out of respect for the family. And they did. They did take it down. The Yemeni community is a tight-knit community. I mean, that was evident at the funeral. There were like 300 or 400 people jammed into this huge mosque, and they were all focused on the prayers that they were doing. But then once that was all over, it wasn't one person holding up the father, or 1 or 2 close relatives holding him up, because he was barely able, his knees were buckling, he was barely able to stand up. It was like 50 people were rushing to like hold him up and show that they were there for him. And there hasn't been a moment where this family hasn't been kind of surrounded by and embraced by the Yemeni community. So that community is taking care of this family at this point. I mean, I've observed it firsthand. So to get out in front on stories like this, being covered for the New York Post, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that you never miss any of them. Thanks.